Welcome to the Stampscapes Lab. This is the final release for 2025. This is Stampscapes code 73B as in boy, nature's sheet number 52. And I just call it Let It Snow. Snowy cabin here, a couple snowy fences, a little slider with some footsteps, a couple snowmen, which I've always wanted to do, and snowy trees for the background, and back at this cabin with trees, and a larger, really heavily weighted snow, well, what do you call it, flocked tree, and a couple, three different little quote stamps for the set, to whatever embellish your scene. What we're going to be doing here is to be testing. We're going to do some initial test impressions. You'll see that this set right here, it looks used because it is used. My rubber guy did some initial tests with these stamps right here, but I wanted to follow up and do some tests before these stamps were officially released. I couldn't tell from his photograph the impression quality and how complete they were. We've run into a couple issues with at least one batch of matrix board a couple of releases ago, which was absolutely horrifying. But I don't know, the other boards have all looked fine, but being that that happened after something like that never happening and, decade upon decade, I thought, we need to really thoroughly test everything to make sure that all stamp surfaces are perfect in the mold. Okay. So this one right here is looking really good. I'm looking for no little tags or no little raised areas with extra surface texture. But for me, I'm always looking for detail and the finest detail in the most detailed areas. And I see that within the little snow clusters like that. So I want to make sure that everything stamps out perfect, but also, out of curiosity, how much detail was retained through the etching matrix board or mold creation, the pressing of the rubber, and eventually utilizing it here. So we were talking quite a few generations away from the original designs. By the time you're, or I am, we're making impressions from, the original concepts. Okay. I feel like doing a whole design right here. So I would put this and have the top of the trees going up into these trees, but let's do this down here because this is a impression test video more than a, scene creation one. Okay, look at that right there. It looks really good, and the retention of detail, like all throughout that those darker areas, looks really good. And then I'm looking around right in here. I made some really, really fine details in the designs that I didn't think were going to read because the stippling was just too small, but I can see there's a little of it right around that border of that snow right there, so looks pretty good. And I'm really psyched about all the retention of detail in here. Now, one of the things that occurred to me when I've watched other people stamp sometimes is that their pads are really, really super juicy with ink. You don't really want that with some designs, like mine in particular. Not all of mine, but a lot of mine have a lot of detail. Okay. There's condensed dots where there's a lot of stippling, okay? Because I like a lot of detail in my designs. I really like that are just working that way. I get excited about all the little things in the imagery, because I think that's where kind of the soul of the stamp is. I mean, certainly the overall silhouette of it, the shape, the negative space, and everything like that. But then you want to give the thing that kind of animates things is that when you look closer at it, you're rewarding, as my art instructor used to say, you're rewarding the viewer for like additional inspection. Okay, so they'll see additional little highlights. In this case, it's tone, and man, that captured that really well. So there's little tiny stipple work right in that white area there. I can't capture it right here in this video right here. You probably can't see it, and I can't zoom in, otherwise my camera completely goes out of whack. But look at that. There's trees like that. Perfect. Yeah, it looks really good. Okay, so 3 down. A few more to go. As far as the test impressions go, there's a little snowman right here. The detail in there looks really good. Until you really, test your stamps out and you get it back and check everything out, you really never really know how things are going to stamp out. I'm always pleasantly surprised, except for that one time with the mold, but I'm talking about just the etching process and the overall kind of process of working through all those generations of steps and materials to get to this final impression. But I'm always really happy with the the retention of detail that we can achieve in this process. That's a really old process. I don't think it's changed in a long time. Just the process of making traditional rubber stamps. Okay, let's try some of these snowy fences out. This is just a bunch of scrap paper that I'm using. This is a white cardstock. You can see a bunch of little spots on it, just like scrap paper. But going back to your my comment about over inking, you want to have your ink pads just in general. If there's dry and like super wet, like brand new pads, okay. I love a brand new pad, but sometimes there's like super juicy. And here's center. You really want it just a little bit, to the right of center, going towards super juicy, okay. I'm talking about with, like a, let's see, which way do we want to do this? I'm talking about with detailed rubber stamps, and you just have to kind of watch for over inking, because what happens is it puddles up in the details, and then you stamp it out, and then instead of like detailed areas of open maybe negative space, you get this fill in there. I mean, it might look still okay, but you might be missing some of the information that it could have had with a less inked up stamp. So you say, well, hey, I got a brand new pad. How do you do that? Well, what I do is I ink up like this to make sure that it's really inked up. Now my ink pad here is not, super juicy, but sometimes I go like that. I ink it up and you build up little beads of ink on that. Then you go like this and you might just move it like a little, I don't know, whatever that is, like a 1/8 of an inch or something like that, 1/16 of an inch, just to kind of bump down and to sop back up some of that excess ink. Okay. Okay. A couple snowy fences. We have fences that also can be used. I have a whole fence set with different sizes of fences that look really similar to this one. But this one has this snow on it. You know, making it more, whatever, thematic. Here, let's do a whole scene like this. Okay, let's go about right here. If I was stamping this, you know, with a scene that I was going to complete, I would probably wipe off a little of the ink off of that. So when I stamp it out, it's a little bit lighter, so it looks like a little mist towards the bottom of the trees. I'd probably do that, or I probably will. Here, I'll show you with this one right here, maybe. So ink up. Take a paper towel, napkin, whatever, and then you wipe off the bottom of this, okay? And you transition it. So I'm going about midway up, but I'm taking a little bit less ink in that midway up and more ink off the bottom, so it transitions from dry to wet, you know, dry, medium, and then wet like that, okay? Then you can just go right across your other foreground impressions like that, but see, you have this lighter tone down here where you're overlapping like that, okay? So you don't obscure that tree right there. And it looks like it's, you know, in the distance in the mist. Let's do this again. Let's do it twice like this. Let's go for a kind of a second impression like that. You get that background tree like that. This image right here is kind of my version of one of my favorite stamps that I've used all the time called Pine Row, except this one right here will be kind of more of a snowy pine row. Or maybe it's, you know, some larch trees or something like that. You can fill it in with like autumn colors on those trees. Those open areas, doesn't have to be snow. Okay. Let's see if I can get like a third impression. Yeah, like that. So you get a lot of background fill in like so. All right, let's see. Let's test our little guy here. Our little slitter. I almost forget I'm checking for impression quality. And he has a good quality on him. I left him real textured in his jacket to make it look like snowfall. Kind of on the back of his little jacket like that. These are some snowy footprints. I'm going to stamp them in black here because I'm just doing an impression test, but you can stamp this in something like a blue, a dark blue, and then you can have like a bluish tinge to your you know, winter landscape. Okay, that footprint looks good to me. You can see I'm using scrap paper, but let's do an actual impression test with that. That looks good to me. I can tell these stamps are going to be fine here, but we are going to test them all. Just to make sure. I didn't think I would ever see kind of you know, matrix board errors, and my rubber guy didn't either. So on one of those, it was on the whale, so we just didn't test because we hadn't had any problems for, you know, whatever, 25, 30 years of, you know, hundreds of plates. Okay. Let's see, let's wipe this one off. I could, you know, totally mask this off, but I'll just wipe off the bottom portion like this, and we'll have that tree going down into that fence area like that. So it looks like it's behind the fence, you know, because I've wiped off a little bit of that like that. Yeah, let's do this right here. I'm not completely masking off everything, but again, these are just little stamp sketches right here. Okay, so this is a taller tree, right? But what you do is you take and you mask off something like this. Go for, you know, kind of a jagged edge, you know, where I've torn this right here. And then you just use your top portion of, you know, this snowy pine tree like that. And you can have some smaller pines in the distance. It's not exactly, you know, to scale, but you can just use this top portion for trees that are, you know, represent trees farther back in, you know, space. Okay, here is the Let It Snow. Let's see, did I leave? I didn't leave any space on any of these for some word stamps. So that's the type of thing you can, you know, do this, and you can stamp this on the inside of your card or something like that, or on the outside, whatever. Let's do some impression tests right here. Perfect. I kept the text here a little bit thicker because sometimes we want to stamp in reverse text, so you can stamp it out in white, and something like this, it's bold enough to where stamping it in on white on a darker piece of paper will show up. Okay, so white meaning pigment ink. Okay, let's see, Warm Wishes. Nice even impression. If you're just hand stamping it like this, if you have it on a, you know, a stamp position or something like that, you'll get a nice even impression quality. This piece right here, I have another one that says piece on my Scenic Sentiment sheets, but I used a different font for this one. And again, going for a little bit of a thicker font like that, you know, for again that reverse text. I love reverse text in whatever, graphics. Or you can do something like that. You can do a bluish scene or something like that and do the piece embossed in silver or something like that, and that should be really fun. Ink this all up, splatter paint it with some you know, acrylic paint, or, you know, the Dr. Martens bleed proof white to make it look like it's snowing all over this whole thing. You got to ink it up, you know, and tone it in first, color it in order to see that snowfall. But that snowfall really adds a really great texture to everything like that. Color this in, you know, you can color your tree limbs a little bit of a bluish tinge or something like that. Then go in with them with your acrylic paint pens. And what you do is you go back in and reclaim some of the white that's in the tree branches, like here, right in here. Okay, to give it like a three-dimensional look of snow. Or you can go with, some people use this kind of puffy paint type of thing, and they put it on their snowy trees. You can put it on the fence right here, so it gives it a real three-dimensional look, and that's really fun to do. Okay, so those are the impression tests. With all, let's see, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 different designs in Nature's set number 52, Let It Snow. At the time of this video right here, these are not yet released because I have to give my rubber guy the go-ahead, after everything has been tested, to go ahead and start pressing rubber. So these should be out from the time of this video right here. They'll be out in probably about a week to a week and a half from the posting of this video. Anyways, hope you like the designs. Thanks so much for watching. And stay tuned for a couple new winter-themed nature sets from Stampscapes.